Yo, what's going on, guys? Ryan Hodge with FantasyLabs.com here, and it's Monday morning. The slate is in the books, and we are going to do a little bit of review. So we'll take a look at my player pool, my contest selection, how I arrived at the lineups that I got to, and we'll take a look at some of the larger contests, see what some of the pros did, take a look at some winning lineups, and just kind of get there. For anyone who's been following this, we've been on a losing streak. We continued that. We clawed back a min cash and one of the jukes, and that is all that I focused on this week. I really just focused on these three lineups right here. This other stuff that you're seeing, it was just me clicking enter in the lobby Sunday morning, just doing random stuff. So we're gonna focus on the juke. That is a contest that I'm going to focus on playing. That's a contest that I'm going to focus on building around. And let's bring up my lineups as well from my models here. And let's just talk about it a little bit. So I originally was on the Bills and stayed on them. I was a big Josh Allen fan. Here, let's just show only mine. I'll show you the three lineups that I played in the juke. Or actually, here, let me show you from here, because this way you guys can see before my swaps. So let's see. Here's a juke and here's a juke. So these two right here on the right side, these are my original juke lineups. After the Jamal Williams news, I thought Swift was just an absolute smash play. I had wanted to do everything that I could to make sure that I had Swift. And so that included kind of moving away from James Robinson in a lineup or two. And I just thought that was like the weakest of plays at the running back position from the pool that I was looking to use. So once Calvin Ridley got ruled out, I thought CPAT was also a guy who I wanted to get in my lineup as well. So I think I had 100% Pittman in all of the jukes. So 400, 400, and oh, maybe I didn't. I really thought I did. I thought I had Pittman across all three, but let's go back to those three juke lineups here, and I'll show you what they look like in the DK lobby. So I had a which one? Where did I not use? Oh, I did a Higgins Crowder. I thought actually after the Jets injury to oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking on his name. I thought Crowder was a good value play at $4,800, or not really value, but I thought it was kind of tough sub 5K, so I thought Crowder was in a good spot there in a game that could pace a little bit since he has been playing really quick the last 3 and 4 weeks. So I thought that there was a little bit of merit there. So this team was a Tannehill. This was actually James Robinson, DeAndre Swift, A.J. Brown, Michael Pittman, Van Jefferson, Kyle Pitts, and T. Higgins. And then I think it was the Washington defense. And that's how I was able to have Swift here. But obviously how I was able to have J-Rob here. Obviously after the Swift dud, a Kyle Pitts dud, and then really just like, T. Higgins not getting there, I knew that this lineup was not going to have a shot at even a min cash if I stayed on that Washington chalk. And I thought J-Rob would still be low owned, but I wanted to just do something a little bit different. And obviously Tannehill didn't really get there either. He just didn't have that massive of a game. 23 points is fine in a contest like this size, but like you're not shipping anything with that from your quarterback unless you have all the other pieces hit, right? Which I did not. So the Saints defense was literally thought I could get them sub 1%, was hoping for a pick six, which we got one at the end of the game. Had a little bit of luck swing our way to claw out a min cash in the juke here for $800. But Van Jefferson was a guy who popped in my model. I didn't have any Henderson originally in this lineup, and so I thought Jefferson was a totally fine play on a great implied team total. He was a wide receiver that my model liked a lot, and I was trying to force in Kyle Pitts. So I was really, really trying to force in Kyle Pitts, who ended up having 3.3 DraftKings points. You absolutely hate to see it. So when I decided that I wanted Swift and Pitts and wanted AJ Brown, I had to find ways to get some salary relief, because typically I usually do that at defense and tight end. And I did do it at defense with Washington, but obviously wasn't doing it at the tight end position. And once Calvin was ruled out, I just thought Pitts was in an extremely good spot. I guess Carolina is just too tough, man. Too tough against opposing teams. They're just not giving it up fantasy points wise to some of these skill positions. So maybe something I need to consider going forward, but I still think that was a hashtag fine play. Swift, I don't know what to tell you, man. I have no idea. Detroit showed up against the Rams, but they could not show up against Philly. I mean, it's just insane to me. It is what it is. Gibson was a late swap, just trying to find a low-owned running back who had the shot of 25 points to help me squeak out a min cash here. Same thing with the Saints. So the Pittman and Brown stuff, I was on Pittman all week long. I almost got off of him once Hilton was ruled active, but I decided to stay, and obviously that panned out. Massive target hog in this offense. Great red zone work. And it's just at $5,300, I thought this was an absolute lock. AJ Brown obviously makes a ton of sense. Excuse me, makes a ton of sense. Haven't had my coffee yet. With Tanny. So I just thought that was, this would, even though that these two guys would carry a little bit of ownership, I thought Tannehill would be sub 5%, and he absolutely was. We just needed maybe that overtime drive out of him to get us another, three DK points, which obviously is a big deal. So take a look at another lineup here. This was also a swap. I swapped here as well. Josh Allen got there rushing. I think is sick. Absolutely love to see it. Clearly it was a Cole Beasley day, not an Emmanuel Sanders day. What are you going to do? I thought Cole Beasley was actually great. Pivot away from Sanders and Diggs, where we expected maybe a little bit of ownership, 10 to 15 on each. That's kind of where they came in at. But Sanders is just seeing a good amount of targets, good amount of air yards. Like, I thought he was a fine play for $5,400, and big old dud there. Once again, Pittman wasn't moving away from it. Troutman was legitimately like salary relief in a game that I expect to be a ton of passing volume. He saw one, maybe two targets in the end zone, and just didn't come down with them. It is what it is. I don't know how much the quarterback change affected him. I don't think it did at all. Simeon looked good, so like I don't have any scapegoats there. It is what it is. I just you pass on the Saints. And so I wanted exposure to some of that passing game, and I thought Troutman was a really cheap way. Guy who's been targeted like 3, maybe 4 times. It's super, super thin, but that's fine. Tight end, it can definitely be tough. Damian Harris was a late swap. He was a swap here, and so was the Saints, and so was Sutton. So this lineup, if we go take a look at it originally, was a Godwin, James Robinson, Washington, and Godwin, James Robinson, Washington. So I pivoted to the Saints, to Damian Harris, and I knew Godwin was just going to be absolute massive chalk. And I also felt very good about him scoring 20 plus DK points, and he put up 30. But I know you have to swap off the chalk. It doesn't matter. I know that Godwin was just an absolute smash play, and you have to swap away from him. I bet you Godwin's on the winning team in here. So Sutton's 10%, Harris 4%, the Saints defense 7%. I bet you Godwin is probably like a 25% owned player here, 34%. So I have to move away from that. I absolutely have to, because if he puts up 11 points and Sutton puts up 25, it's just an insane swing. Then I go from not min cashing and probably to maybe like a 2K. I could probably squeak my way into the top maybe 15, maybe the top 10. So like there's a $1,500 win rather than 800, which is now I'm profitable in the juke, right? So if I could squeak my way into a top 10 with a Godwin failure and a Sutton explosion game where he gets 25 points, I think it's a totally different day. Yeah, I mean literally that puts me, at like 170, right where some of these guys are. So you just have to do that stuff when you're behind, even though it doesn't feel good, even though it's uncomfortable. I just think you absolutely have to. So let's take a look at that last lineup. I don't even think I swapped on this. I think I had 2 swap options and I just moved on. I just put focus and time into my other 2 lineups because it's just had Washington and Troutman, and I just left myself no swap equity here. It's insane that Henderson was on like my worst team. Such a bummer, man. It is what it is. And honestly, I probably should have just maybe had more Henderson because that's a guy who I was most convicted on to begin with. Whatever. The Jamal Williams news. I think if you play that game over and over and over again, DeAndre Swift is like averages 20 points, if not, maybe a little higher. So it's just kind of insane. Let's take a look at a winning lineup here. 193.91. That is a massive score on this slate in this contest size. And yeah, so this is what I was talking about. Like 23 points. I mean, he had Herbert who had 15. It's not that big of a deal in these contests, but you cannot miss anywhere else. And he didn't. He played the Dan Arnold chalk, he played the Godwin chalk, he played the Pittman chalk, he played the Brown chalk, and he decided to get unique with Herbert and Keenan Allen. Like, this is the kind of stuff where, like, if we take a look at my ownership, although Gibson was a swap, and so was the Saints. So, like, I don't know, man. Actually, maybe not on that one. Yeah, I don't think I was getting too thin. I really do think, like, that's something that I was focusing on. I've been talking about a lot. Is like, let's just play the good players. If the correlation's there, great. If it's not that big of a deal. They're projecting, really well still. They're in great environments. So, like, anyways, back to the winning lineup. Like, all of this stuff just makes sense. Keenan Allen sub 10%, Justin Herbert sub 10%. 2 guys in 2 really good spots kind of going overlooked. And Henderson, CPAT, Godwin, I mean, he just played all the best plays. He literally played all of the best plays. Godwin, Arnold, Pittman, Brown, CPAT, Henderson, those were literally all of the best plays. Let's take a look at my model and see where Herbert and Keenan were from a rating standpoint. So yeah, Herbert's fine. Keenan Allen, I don't remember him being up there too much, but he was at a price that was fairly palatable. But yeah, I just like, yeah, right here, 68. Just play the best plays, man. Let's take a look at FOD Squad here. Wentz, I thought Wentz was pretty sharp. Once again, best play Henderson, best play Daryl Patterson. DJ Moore, I don't know. I think that was fine in a bounce back spot. I don't know if I'd be playing him as a one-off. The only spots that I really liked DJ Moore was Sam Darnold. He was a little expensive, but by playing Sam Darnold, you kind of unlocked a cheaper combined salary between those two. Brown and Pittman was the stone nuts. I thought once Eric Ebron was ruled out, Freiermuth was actually in play. I was talking about that Sunday morning. But for $3,600, I thought it was just a little bit too expensive at the tight end position. But I think that's a big deal. Ebron goes out. You have this talented tight end who's, on a team that's whatever, in a game environment that's not that good. But he was still cheap. Once again, Godwin, hashtag play the best plays. Godwin, hashtag play the best plays. So Higgins, I think he actually ran a little bad. He was like 2 yards short from having 2 touchdowns. So that is what it is. He could have had a much, much bigger day, but Higgins was, I thought, a great play. this Bills game, like they just didn't get it going at all until like 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Mitchell, I think maybe playing with fire there, but I thought he was fine too. My model liked him. I just kind of moved away from that Shanahan backfield. Darrell Henderson play the best plays. Josh Allen play the best plays. I do think Josh Allen and the Bills were part of playing the best plays, like without a doubt. It was just kind of strange that it didn't get there. Maybe that's is that the second time that they've played? Because like sometimes those divisional games, the second time they play so much more tough, and I think we're at the point of this season where that's going to start happening. So let's make mental notes. Second time in division, those games. Look at the trends. They tend to just play a little bit slower and a little bit lower scoring. That doesn't mean every game is going to, but I think that's food for thought there as you're building your lineups. Go Sixers, go. Here's a pro. Wentz, failed with Swift, but still got a top 5 lineup here. Godwin, Goddard, Higgins. He had the Pittman, Brown. I just think, like, if you didn't have Pittman, Brown, you weren't winning anything. You were winning absolutely nothing. Stayed on Godwin and just one Snowflake and Swift. But he was in half the field's lineup slow. Havana, another sharp player here with the Wentz. Dude, okay, let's take a look at this. So this is something that I've been starting to think about a little bit too, and was talking to Ian J300 about, of these cheap quarterbacks. So let's just take a look at these top 6 lineups. Not cheap, cheap, not cheap, not cheap, 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 not cheap, cheap, not cheap, cheap, not cheap, cheap. Okay, so it's like we should take a look at, and I was looking at like much larger players pools, but like for instance, Wilson this week, another pro, he didn't have a single quarterback above like 6K. I mean, he basically played Wentz, like I think maybe Tanny, Mac Jones. Like he was playing very cheap quarterbacks in games that had, a chance for good pace and good shootout. So here's cheap Bridgewater. I just think like you're unlocking a little bit higher of a ceiling with the rest of your lineup by saving $1,000 or $1,500 or sometimes even $2K, sometimes even $3,500. It really just depends, right? Like there's a lot that you can do with that extra $3,000 throughout the course of your lineup, even if that's moving away from the Washington defense and getting up to some $2,500 defense. There's $400 of the $3,000, so now you've got $2,600 that you can use to move away from a $5,400 wide receiver and get all the way up to one of those $7,500 wide receivers, right? I mean, like that's just, you're unlocking so much ceiling there. There's a lot of upside in some of those 6K wide receivers, but once you start to get towards those 5K, it gets really thin, and you're really kind of hunting for not necessarily outliers, but just low probability outcomes or lower probability outcomes, I think is probably the right way to phrase it. So look, those are my 3 teams in the juke. This is a contest that I'm just playing this. I'm just focusing on this. You'll notice like I had $1,400 in action and not $3,000 like I normally do. Dialed it way back. Didn't play any of the spies. Didn't play any of the oh my gosh, what are the red zone? Didn't play any of the single entry. Didn't play any of the 3-max stuff. No power sweeps. Nothing. So just going to focus on this juke in this field size and make sure that I'm just putting in thoughtful lineups and not so scatterbrains, playing 20 lineups across 6 or 7 different contests. So nice to see we didn't get sweep this week. It took a outlier situation of the Saints returning a touchdown against Tom Brady. So I am well aware that I hit a 2% outcome there against the Saints with a pick 6 against Tom Brady. I mean, it's just, he doesn't make very many mistakes. And for one to go for 6, I think is just not repeatable. But that's why we late swap. That's why we make gross decisions. That's why you have to make your lineups just look like total trash when you're behind and hopefully claw a little bit back. And in some cases, maybe even get there into a top 3, spot in something like this, which has happened before. So that's my review. I'll see you all tomorrow for the first look. Be sure to check it out here on the Fantasy Labs channel, and let me know how you guys did this week, and let me know what you think about the process. What are you guys struggling with? And I'll try and reply with some of that stuff in the comments as well. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.